and sincere. Go and watch them and then get relieffactor.com.
Welcome back to Get Down to Business. We are the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And what a great discussion regarding resources for small business. But now let's talk about some small businesses and some additional resources to help small businesses grow. I'm thrilled to be joined here in studio by Steve Whittington, the founder of Life Working Coworking, and there's a lot of meaning behind those words. Steve, welcome to the program.
It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that name, Life Working Coworking. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's funny. It's one of the very first things I came up with. It's a little campy, but we want to be part of your life working. And part of what we look at is not only your work life, but how do we help you pivot very quickly to everything else that's important to you.
That's great. And the motto is live life, do more. And that obviously means a lot to an entrepreneur that's hustling all the time, hustling and working hard to grow their business. But that doesn't mean that it needs to be painful.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what is Life Working Coworking and how are you helping small businesses?
So Life Working Coworking, first of all, it was a new word to me about 4 years ago, and coworking at its very basic is, whether you're a small business, an entrepreneur, it's working with somebody else that's not in your house, that's not in the coffee shop, that removes the distractions, but typically is still pretty close to the rest of your life. What Life Working Coworking is a suburban version of this. And part of what we're trying to prove, and what we really are proving, is that in fact this industry that's growing rapidly is not just for millennials. It's not just for tech. And so we have not only entrepreneurs, we have small business, we have nonprofits, and really are embedded in the community and proving that this is a concept that has legs in the suburbs as well as in the urban centers.
So the initial location is in Lake Forest. Why Lake Forest? And tell us a little bit about the operation over there.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's about 2 miles away from where I live. So we're sort of eating our own dog food now. Now, as we expand, that will be less true. But the other thing I found, I spent almost a year doing research before we opened up our first location, and I ran into a lot of freelancers, but a lot that were of my age, post 50, creaky entrepreneur kinds of things. Also, corporate commuters. We are about an hour away from downtown, and that's a really painful place to be. One, just getting work done. Secondly, you have less of a right to make the basketball game or to make dinner on time. So that's the reason why a suburban location makes sense. It was really close, and Lake Forest as a municipality, as a community, was really friendly to us as well.
That's great. So in the space of Life Working Coworking in Lake Forest, so tell us a little bit about the environment, the culture, and what the place looks like now.
Oh, those are two great questions. So what it looks like, so the space. We're about 8,000 square feet. The heartbeat, what we would have called in the old days the water cooler, is a cafe right in the center. And then we have we have some private offices, so you can come in and you can hide yourself away 24/7. But the majority of our members, it's like a gym. They take a space that might be behind a door so they can do so they can make an audio conference, or they have a height adjustable desk because they're going to be working on a project for a while. Or they're just in a quick drop-in space and they don't mind that somebody's right beside them. A lot of our members actually really like some of the noise of the office space, even though it's not their colleagues and coworkers. We have tech-enabled conference rooms. My background, I was 20 years with Procter & Gamble, and my background was network telecommunications, and so we are a very cyber-secure location as well. But that's the space. I often say that's the price of doing business at coworking, but it's the place that we are. And so when you've been heads down for 2 hours, you lift your head and you want to collaborate, you go to grab a coffee, you suddenly find somebody that's standing there, and you may share a business opportunity, you may share, there may be something in your background from a social perspective. And we have so many stories from day one about that serendipity. And I will tell you, that's the reason I do it. We have a great-looking space, and it will rival any that are in Chicagoland, but that's not the reason you do it.
Oh, fascinating. And you've already touched on so many of the points that I wanted to cover about your background. We'll get back to that in just a moment. But the networking is really interesting. And anybody that knows me in the Skokie community, where I hail from, everybody knows where my usual Starbucks spot is. And I don't do work at coffee shops. People think I live there. I don't. I actually do work elsewhere. That's where I meet people because I do enjoy that little buzz and that energy that's created. But what you've done is you've sort of combined the two things of that great work environment, but also that great social environment as well. So I know coffee must probably be one of the most important ingredients at life working, co-working.
Absolutely it is. Now, and what's interesting about that is because we are embedded in the community, we don't want to be a coffee shop. We want to showcase a local roaster or the coffees that are in the area, but it is important. Absolutely.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the details. So what is the pricing model at Life Working Co-working?
So we are more like a gym than anything. You are not our tenant. We run by the hour, week, or month. You don't have to be a member. Your basement could flood and you need to come in and use us today. That's happened. You could be a small business that has a pretty good home office, but you need a professional address and you need a place to meet clients and you don't want to do that at home. Or you're a commuter or a management consultant and you really do need a place to land 2 to 3 days a week. And our pricing then with that from you've got our address is a monthly at $99 per month, all the way up to on average, we say on average 3 days a week, and really what that means is we look at your use over the month. We're very flexible, and that's under $500 a month, and that gives you address, phone number, storage, 24/7 access, and a cybersecurity that you won't get elsewhere that you're working.
So all of the resources at a fraction of the price, and that's because we used the term pooling earlier, because you're pooling all of the resources together. So, Steve, you have touched on something really important. And on your website, which we'll share in just a moment, you touch on all the statistics relating to co-working, which is truly fascinating, and it is a growing trend. But your aim is not to just do it just like everybody else, but to do it way better. So what is next beyond Lake Forest? What will the company look like and the locations look like in 5 years from now?
Well, that's a great question. In addition to the small business entrepreneurs, small businesses that come in, we've seen a rapid growth in corporate use of off-site ideation meetings. So that's a part of our model that we're embracing. And so in 5 years, so I'll break that down. In the next 2 years, we expect to have several suburban locations in Chicagoland. In 5 years, and that would be, I'll put it out, that will be another capital raise, but in 5 years, we expect to be a regional suburban player that continues to be really focused on, the macro from a market perspective, from a demographic, and the macro from an industry perspective.
Oh, fantastic. So we only have a couple of minutes remaining, but I want to go back to your background because I know you are beyond passionate about this, passionate about the growth for the company, but also passionate about the members that you are serving, because you are such an integral part of their growth. So the man behind this all, why and how are you doing what you're doing now?
Well, that's a great question. So I my background at P&G that played in was technically being able to provision a work from anywhere at any time capability all over the world for Procter & Gamble. And I learned my wife and I were both employees of P&G. So to manage a dual career situation, you had to stick and move and be very flexible. So we really appreciated that opportunity that we could both have our careers. Fast forward now to Life Working Co-working, that's a core perspective. And I'll just share one quick story. One of our very first members is a director of sales and marketing for a Fortune 200 company. Walked through the door. 2 months later, we had his wife on video saying that our relationship is better because my spouse is out of the house. And the next second, he said, and my dad called me, and I was 5 minutes away. So that's why we do it.
Amazing. You've got some great stories, some great successes, and I'm excited to see what is next. Steve Whittington, once again, the founder of Life Working Coworking. I want to make sure our listeners know how they can get in touch with you so they can tour the space and read a little bit about the statistics and why they should consider coworking for their business. How can they get a hold of you?
So you can catch us online at mylifeworking.com. Our number is 847-457-2662. And please stop by between 8:30 and 5. And if you mention this radio station and you mention Shalom, we've got a complimentary day pass there for you.
Fantastic. mylifeworking.com. We'll be back after the headlines. Don't touch that dial, Chicago. Thanks, Steve, for joining us.
Not a day goes by